Hey team. First, let me give thanks to John Murphy for organizing this excellent GeoIgnite event. The second time we've done this, third time we've done this. Amazing event, second time remote, first time in person. Looking forward to doing it remotely again next year. Very excited. Secondly, I believe in you. I believe that those people with the presence of mind to be here are in fact also first-rate thinkers, because according to Mr. Fitzgerald, one must be of first-rate intelligence to hold two opposing ideas in mind and retain an ability to operate. This is exactly what I'm going to ask you to do, and while I'm doing so, I want to soothe your overburdened synapses with a story. Let's begin. The geospatial product trap. These are unprecedented times. I would still be saying that, independent of pandemics and protests and international unrest, catastrophic global climate change. But speaking both locally and globally, because geospatial is always changing, these are unprecedented times. Technology is advancing at an incredible rate, which is lucky because it seems that the problems we are being asked to solve are getting bigger and bigger. Some would argue exponentially more complex. Indeed, each of these global complexities outlined above is being monitored by tools which are geographic, because global problems intrinsically need geographic solutions, which must be up to the task. Hi, I'm Will Cadell. I run a company called Spark Geo, where we provide strategic geospatial innovation to technology companies, governments, nonprofits. If that sounded a touch familiar, I gave exactly the same introduction at this event last year. Though some things do change, the fact that they are changing appears to remain somewhat consistent, and that is a consistent message with what I am sharing with you today. This is like 2.0 of strategic geospatial, which we talked about last year. Today, I want to tell you about what I think is the geospatial product trap. At Spark Geo, this is how we think about geospatial. This is how I think about the opportunity in the geospatial market. This is the essence of what I believe we have been missing as a community. It's simple, really. Our planet is dynamic. Understanding that dynamism at various scales and through various dimensions is what our community does. Ladies and gentlemen, the geospatial product trap is a love story. Geospatial people like you and I self-identify with geography and geographic technology. We get lost in maps and images. We see lives between contour lines. We look for stories of location and adventure. We have cartography plastered on our walls. We tend to look to horizons with wonder and interest. These are the things that we live for. These are the things that give us the spark. To do their jobs well, entrepreneurs, business people, product managers need to fall in love with the problems they intend to solve. As geographers, we have already fallen in love with the technology and practices of geography. Our hearts have been lost to geography. But this is no romantic comedy. I have 2 or 3 discussions a week asking me for advice, with companies asking me for advice, asking me about ideas for use cases for their technology. I call this the use case discussion. These companies have fallen for the geospatial product trap. This is a deeply uncomfortable place and can be enormously expensive. What, though, is the trap, and why is it so insidious? Well, it starts with a simple statement. Geospatial is changing everything. Spark Geo, we've been saying this, and we are not alone. Others say it too. Let's look into that. Let's think about our environment and the markets in which we operate. When Google put 30 years of Landsat catalog on their cloud, it was 1.3 petabytes in total. Presently, I estimate, and this is just an estimate, so call me wrong, call me conservative, but I think there's about 1,000 terabytes per day coming down from low Earth orbit. 1,000 terabytes, 1 petabyte, if you like. So that's almost an entire 30-year Landsat catalog coming down in a day. There are some organizations that propose to have somewhere in the region of 10 petabytes coming down a day by 2024. 10 petabytes. Do you believe for a second that there are enough eyes in our industry to credibly use each of those pixels? And if there were, could they do it again tomorrow? And then the day after, and then the day after that. Given the amount of data flow and the sheer magnitude of geography in question, do you think for a second that this data is being used to its full potential? If I'm monitoring a location as a geospatial person, do I want to receive an image every day? An image is mostly a problem. It's rarely a solution unto itself. It's very transactional, usually, unless potentially the military, the defense sector, I concede the image is often the product. In every other sector, the image is a transaction. It is a step between the captured data point and the end goal, which is some kind of insight derived from the data point. Do I want to receive a problem to solve every day? No, I want an answer. Do I want to receive a problem to solve every 15 minutes? No, I want answers. Do I want 1,000 terabytes of problems every day? I don't think anyone wants that. 7.8 billion people on Earth, 3.8 billion smartphones on Earth. So 49% of our planet has location enabled. 49% of our planet can run on Strava, can find coffees, can locate their friends, can tag here, can like there, can geographically tweet, can do enormous numbers of useful and frivolous things on the internet that are attached to location. That took 10 years or so. How long before every phone has LiDAR onboarded? I have LiDAR on my phone. It's a new thing. That's cool, exciting, interesting. But if I have it now, one would expect that every phone will have LiDAR within 2 years. Do you think that maps will stay the same when everything we measure has not just location, but depth? Do you think planimetric mapping will remain the dominant form of cartography? I don't know. I find that interesting, something to consider. Because this is where we live now. It's a digital mirror world. Anything you interact with has a location history, a richness, now a depth. Our devices are like portals into those worlds from which we can pull information about places to go running, to drink coffee, where things are at, what's changing around us. Our digital experience is now overtly geographic. Interestingly, that existence is hidden in plain sight. This could be seen as one of the fallacy of obviousnesses. We have been trained as geographers to see GIS. It's very obvious. It's in our faces. It's marketed. It's there. But we're missing geospatial entirely. Geospatial is a very broad horizontal, entirely, almost entirely obscured by the vertical of GIS. Geospatial people excel at building geospatial things for other geospatial people. The Venn, as I call it, of geospatial people. And perspective matters. We get to choose the ocean in which we journey. We can choose the red ocean, where there is copious competition, understood business models, hard to access markets, or the blue ocean. This is the ocean that's almost empty of competition. Additionally, in our case, I am suggesting that our blue ocean is potentially a lot larger than the red. There are many more non-geospatial people than there are geospatial people. I think we can all agree on that. And thus, there is more opportunity. We need to step outside our echo chambers. That is the key takeaway message. Geospatial is everywhere. We need to step outside our offices, step outside our echo chambers, and move into other circles to understand how geospatial could be used in other places. Markets exist in a temporal context. Time matters. Timing also matters. So we have a graph here. It is somewhat subjective. Market versus time. Traditional geo market, little red bubble. Non-traditional geo market, big blue bubble. At different times, geospatial markets perform differently. We have the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. Largely, this is the span of my career. I apologize, I don't go back too much further than this, but this seems to be the relevant period in time where what I would call consumer GIS has really taken off. 2000s, we had this notion of GIS being pretty well the dominant form of geographic understanding, government GIS research resources, defense being the predominant users of that technology. And then on the consumer side, we had GPS maps. We had things like MapQuest, which is kicking off. In the 2010s, government GIS, research GIS, resources GIS, defense GIS, still there, still pretty powerful. But we have handheld navigation, we have social networks, we have Google Earth, which is GIS for everybody else. And we have ride sharing coming up. So we see maps embedded into things like Uber and Lyft subsequently. Now in 2020s, government GIS is still very much there, but research GIS is becoming a little different. Resources GIS is becoming a little different. Defense GIS, defense in general, is looking for alternative solutions, a wide variety of solutions. I point at Palantir as a particular example. Data for consumer maps is becoming a thing that GIS offices do. Consumer maps being largely things that are consumed on a mobile device. That's interesting. That's a role reversal going on. So these things are powered by, and on the non-traditional side, we have cloud computing, we have smartphone location, we have pervasive connectivity, we have smartphone LiDAR, and we have automated vehicles, all demanding change and all demanding new markets. These markets are changing largely because of technology. So 2000s, we had more access to the internet. 2010s, we had cloud computing, smartphone location, pervasive connectivity, cube satellites, changing everything, starting to make it easier to get stuff into space so we can get stuff down about our planet from space. Again, 2020s, we got more cloud, we got more smartphone, we got more connectivity, we got LiDAR happening on our devices, we got automated vehicles capturing a gazillion gigabytes of data a second, and we got more and more CubeSats, more CubeSats than you could shake a stick at these days. It's amazing. So the markets are also changing in terms of societal needs. So traditional GIS in the middle there, local, state, national governments. I'd also throw in their resource sector and also the defense sector, of course, traditional users. But new societal needs, things like climate change, things like mobility, things like spatial finance, sustainable finance, logistics, living maps, social networks, agriculture, energy, social development goals. Hardly any of the needs of those societal needs are satisfied by traditional desktop GIS. We need new things that are wildly scalable, that can run at a very high rate and can monitor automatically without a ton of human interaction. These are new geospatial technologies. Markets evolve, so timing matters. Startups have limited resources. Those resources should be used as efficiently as possible. A good, circumspect CEO should not be rushing around in his limo buying wildly expensive things. They should be spending their money at the right time on the right things and trying to spend as little money as they can until they have product market fit and such. So you need product management, you need engineering, you need sales and marketing, you need administration, and any actual sort of material costs, whether it be servers or hardware or whatever. You need all that stuff. And this is to say that you need that stuff until you hit product market fit, because it's hard to find. That's when you know that you've figured out something that people want to buy. You had an idea that there was a problem, and now you've found a solution that fits the problem. It's hard, but critical. But the people in this diagram are not your market. This is an illustration of the breadth of markets available. This is the trap. If you have a geospatial product and you think that everything is your market, then you are wrong. You will fail, and I don't care who you are, you do not have the resources. You have started from a solution and you're searching for a problem. That in itself is the wrong equation. You need to reverse that. Your product team needs to live and breathe the problem to deliver a functional solution. Your sales and marketing team need to understand the customers of your product to tell your story. They need to be able to walk in their customers' shoes. They need to have felt the pain of whatever problem you're now proposing a solution for. I do not like talking to salespeople who do not know their domain. I think that's a big problem. By refusing to focus, your engineering team needs to build numerous different tweaks for every customer in every vertical. So you're just multiplying up your engineering needs needlessly without actually adding any over benefit. Your sales team must know everything about everything, which is a lot. This whole thing's crazy. You've basically, at this point, you've basically built a services business, except you're only charging product rates. So you can build a services business, and Spargeo, largely a services business, but you should charge services rates for that, and that's better. But if you're going to charge product rates, this is not going to work for you, because at that point you've fallen for the trap. Let's dig into that a little bit more. This illustration simply shows that there is enormous opportunity in geospatial. As a startup CEO or product manager, you choose the problem that you need to solve. You need to choose the problem. If you are allowed to test and experiment, then you can find an appropriate fit. That's okay. In a market this big, there are a lot of problems. Find the one that you can fall in love with and solve that. Products are hard. When you choose to focus on solving problems, your likelihood of success increases. You might think that having a long list of markets and verticals looks good for investors and clients. It doesn't. It looks like you haven't done your homework. Because focus is freedom, strategy is freedom, and it's the freedom to say no. No is the hardest yet most powerful word for a new entrepreneur, product manager, CEO to use. Saying no to someone is very difficult because effectively you're saying no to revenue. You're saying, we don't do that. I don't want your money. That's a hard thing. I challenge everyone at this event to simply sketch out a list of the things that your organization should say no to. Things that you do not do. This is a tremendously empowering thing, and it is the baseline for maybe a broader strategy. But having a no list is super cool because it helps you frame the boundaries of your business. It's so powerful. Definitely a great tip. So remember Fitzgerald's 2 ideas. Here are our 2 ideas. There is enormous opportunity, but you can only choose one thing. So I'm showing you a candy store, and that candy store has, it's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Any number of wonderful sweeties you could be eating, any number of candies. You can test a few, that's allowed, but you can only have one. And once you've done a good job of eating one, then maybe you can have another, if it aligns with your first one. That is so important. So here's the candy store. Choose your one. Are you in this trap? You might be. Lots of people are. It's not exclusively small companies or startups who are in this trap. I've had this conversation with old, established organizations. I've had this conversation with very large organizations who think that they have the sales and marketing to do this, but they don't, because no one has. There are some ways out. Let's have a look. Okay, think about segmenting our community of practice a little bit. This is, in the most part, the kind of things that we as geospatial community members do. We have people who create data, and we have people who disseminate data into, so we create data from satellites or cell phones or open data or something or other. You have a store of things that reference geography that are interesting and useful for the community. And on the bottom end, we have people creating UIs that are interesting, people creating consumable data feeds, people creating client-specific products. 2 parts of the puzzle, if you like. There's also a midstream piece here. There might be an organization who just does analytics. They would sit in the midstream. That's cool. That's also another part. When I wrote this diagram, I hadn't considered that, but that is a bona fide piece of this puzzle too. So we have the creators of data and we have the distributors of data, largely. And then there's pipelines and cloud nonsense in between, but largely that's how this goes. So think about this. Wow. What a great problem to have for this data creation, this upstream geospatial company. They have a ton of customers, tons and tons and tons and tons of people who could use their thing. Problem is, they all want something just a little bit different. And you know who hasn't got the engineering staff to do that? Almost anybody, especially if they're going to be selling at what we would call a product rate. So this company has a problem. Their problem is they can't deal with all these customers because they all look different. They all want something slightly different. And what's going to happen is they're going to walk away. Because unless you satisfy each of these customers in the particular manner that they want, they're going to walk away. Turns out geospatial is just always a little bit custom. And that's why geospatial is well serviced by a wide variety of little consulting shops, not dissimilar to my own. Here's one approach. Let's think about partners. Let's think about people who really deeply understand their market. What's the thing that you understand? Maybe it's water. Great. What's the thing that this person understands? Maybe it's automotive. Wonderful. What's the thing that that person understands? Maybe they really know forestry or agriculture or insurance or retail, store locators and such. Why not invest in a small number of partners and keep each one of those partners happy with a smaller number of focused products? Yeah, sure. You're going to take a little bit of a hit, but in the end, a little bit of a revenue hit probably. But in the end, if each of these partners is serving you with a large amount of royalty because they know their customer base, they've got the Rolodex and they know how to sell the product, that's a win. That's a win for everybody. You've picked up a much bigger sales and marketing team who actually know how to walk in their clients' shoes. What happens if you're vertically integrated? Vertically integrated upstream companies are amazing. Like, they capture data from the sky and they know how to turn it into an analytic that references something down here on the ground. That's powerful. So they know exactly what to get. But should they just not serve any other markets? That seems like an opportunity lost. Why leave revenue on the table, Will? I agree. I agree completely, but only do it through partners. If you don't do it through partners, you're going to be in exactly the same problem as the guy in the first slide. You're going to have a bazillion customers pulling you away from your focal point, which needs to be your vertical integration. So if you know the analytic you want to deliver, and you've got the entire pipeline from the satellites all the way through, it's a wonderful model, but there's opportunity elsewhere in the development of those partners. Okay, if you want to get in touch with me, or you want to shout at me because you think what I'm saying is wrong, Twitter's a great place to do these things. You can also find us at sparkgeo.com. These are the three things I want you to think about and remember from this presentation. Firstly, those two ideas. There's enormous opportunity. Just do one thing. Enormous opportunity. Do one thing. You can choose what you want to do. There's enormous opportunity with geospatial, a bazillion problems in that sector. Do one thing well, and then do two things. Do two things well, then do three things. That's how that works. Choose to focus. Saying no will set you free. And fall in love with the problem, not the technology. Don't be the blockbuster of geo. They fell in love with front counter real estate. They fell in love with this like iconic blockbuster store, and they forgot that they're supposed to serve content. Turns out a few people have figured out how to do that better. No one's going to Blockbuster anymore. Don't be that guy. Okay, thank you very much. Speak to you again soon.